Hello everyone, my name is Sola and you're watching Smart Code. This is the JavaScript tutorial and I will show you how to get the value of a text box in the JavaScript. We will also discuss the type of the value and I will show you how to print the value to the console or to the web. In many applications, we need to read the values from the text boxes. So we have a text box and we will provide a value to it, for example 12, and then we make a click to the get value button. And now you see the value in the console as well as on the web, right? So we will learn the right way to do that, and you can use the script to your projects without any problem. So let's get into it without any further ado. Now the HTML is very basic. We have a text box, a button, and a paragraph to output the value. And all the HTML elements that you need in the JavaScript must have the ID attribute or the class. Using the ID or the class, we can select them in the JavaScript, right? When we have IDs, then we use getElementById method in the JavaScript to select the HTML. And in case of class, you will use querySelect method, right? In addition, there are some other methods as well to select the HTML in the JavaScript. However, getElementById and querySelector are commonly used methods. So in this application, I will use getElementById to select these elements in the JavaScript. And that's why you see all the elements have their own ID values. The ID of the text box is getMyValue, button's ID is buttonValue, and paragraph's ID is output. And the JavaScript file is already included to the HTML, right? So in the HTML, everything is ready. Now, where do we start in the JavaScript? In the JavaScript, we will start with this button. We will first select the button and then we will apply a click event to it. So in the JavaScript, we will first select or get the button. Right, so by using the getElementById method, we are selecting the button, and this is the ID of the button. And here we have the button object. Now to the button object, we will apply a click event, or we will listen for the click event. And when the click is performed, our user-defined function is called. Let's call it getValue. And now we just need to code the function getValue. So what we have done so far, we first selected the button in the JavaScript and then we applied the click event. And when the click is performed, this getValue function is called to execute the JavaScript. Now, before we go further and write some more code, I will just want to check if everything is working. So in the console, we will write a message such as OK. So when I click on the button, here you see in the console, the message is printed, right? That means our button is responding to the click event and there is nothing wrong with the code. And so now, how do we get the value of the text box? It's very simple. So let's see how we code to get the value of the text box. We need for sure a variable to hold that value. Let's call it value underscore. And so now we need to select the text box that we want to read. This is how JavaScript works. We select the element first and then we apply more operations. You can even see a live example here. We selected the button first and then we applied event listener to it, right? You can, however, combine these two lines of code in a single line, but the sequence of operations should be the same. Get the element first and then apply operations. So we will get the text box using its ID. And so now we have selected the text box, but we are not interested in the text box as a whole. We are rather interested in the value inside the text box. So what we do, to the text box, we call a property named val. The value property returns the value inside the text box. Now we can log it to confirm if we are getting it or not. So refresh the page and provide something in the text box, click on the button, and here you see we are getting value in the JavaScript, right? So that was super simple to accomplish. Let's now talk about the data type of the value. The value property returns always data in string form. So if you provide a number in the text box, then you will get a string equivalent of that number. For example, we provided 12 in the text box, but what we get in the JavaScript is a string equivalent of 12. And you want to see the evidence? So let me show you. Now let's say I provide the value 12 again. So what would be the result in the console? If you guess 24, then you are wrong. the result should be 1212 because the 12 is in string form and JavaScript does not do addition here. It will do concatenation, right? Let's now check this out in the browser. I'll provide the value 12 and here you see the result 1212. It's a concatenation because the value is in string form. Now if you are interested in pure number, then you need to perform number conversion, and JavaScript provides built-in functions to do number conversions. For example, parse int and parse float. And if you are interested and want to learn more about the number conversions, then you can watch JavaScript part 14 on my channel. So what we can do, once we read the value, we will convert it to the number. So this parse int going to convert the string equivalent of the number to the real number. And now the JavaScript will do addition here, not the concatenation. Let's now run the application again in the browser. Provide the number, and here you see the result 24, right? And this one is the tutorial I mentioned to you earlier. So you can watch this tutorial if you are interested to learn more about the number conversions, right? And now we will print the value back to the web. And for that, so we have a paragraph. So select the paragraph first. The ID of the paragraph is output. Now we want to assign the value to the paragraph. So the property that we use to manipulate the text is called inner.html. Now the assignment, and the assignment is the value. So now our application is ready. So here you see the addition in the console and value by itself on the web. Now before I end this tutorial, I want to make one last comment. This value underscore variable is inside the getValue function, and thus it has a local scope, and you can't use this variable outside of the function. So if you want to make this value variable available outside of this function, so you will do something like this. You will create the variable before the function definition, right? So the variable is created outside of the function, so we don't need the let keyword inside. And so now the value can be used outside of the function, right? So that was all about how to get the value of the text box in the JavaScript. I hope you like the description and the demonstration. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. I will see you in other tutorials, and thanks for watching Smart Code.